Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons. West gave the assurance that they will take care of the Ukrainian securities. It is ultimately the West which ditched Ukraine. They have not shown the commitment. Ukraine does not have the nuclear weapon, and it is standing alone to fight a war. It's almost like the Indian case. We had to go inside Pakistan to teach these Pakistanis a lesson that Kashmir is not a free play, and ultimately only thing Pakistanis did was a narrative war. But in this case, if I draw an analogy, Ukraine is alone fighting its own war. Isn't that, Vlada?
Ukraine is absolutely fighting its own war. However, it has had significant support from the West, but not enough. The biggest mistake that Ukraine made was giving up its nuclear weapons. And the Budapest Memorandum, quite unfortunately, was not worth half of the paper that it's written on. But I disagree to an extent on the fact that this is not going to help the peace talks. It's not going to help or not help the peace talks. This is a show of force in its own way that is going to rattle Putin at home in Russia where it hurts. And I'm not talking only about infrastructure, but Putin survives this war by the public opinion is incredibly high for him supporting this war. He has raised manufacturing in Russia. He purports to have raised the Russian economy, despite the fact we know that that's not true. But when you start hitting a country on its home soil, no matter how much you play a propaganda narrative on television, the citizens of Russia are going to start paying more attention. And that is what hurts Putin. That is what puts pressure on Putin in itself. So it's the byproduct of these attacks, because it has been a few years since Russian mothers have not received even the bodies of their soldiers back. There are bodies still of Russian soldiers in Ukraine that the Russians have not taken back. And it is these women will start asking the question. These mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers will start asking the questions. And that is exactly the kind of change domestically that has to happen within Russia's population to start putting pressure in some ways. I also think you're going to see a significant amount of pressure continue mounting from the West. And I, for one, would personally like to see secondary sanctions take place. I think that's going to put exactly the kind of pressure that we need to put on Russia right now, in
But
addition to
Vlada, how do you account for the fact that Putin is there for life? He's like Xi Jinping. No one is going to remove him. He's like he's immune to the democratic processes. So you are dealing with a person who's there till he controls the armed forces. Doesn't it really complicate the position for Ukraine?
It certainly complicates the position for Ukraine, but nothing is forever. Russia is a massive country with dozens of ethnicities and many, many different religions spread across the board. And Putin has done a very delicate dance to keep all of those regions together and united. But that's not forever. Many of these regions have their own resources. Many of these regions have ambitions for many years to break away from Russia's grasp. And this can absolutely cause exactly the instability that he does not need right now. And I think in part that is also part of Ukraine's hope, is to kind of shake the home front to a degree, to really question the strength of his leadership. When Russia is getting hit on their home turf, that questions the strength of his leadership. Is he a leader that's going to protect the Russian people? Well, it doesn't look like he can protect Russian military infrastructure, and people are going to start asking questions on what is next. And the minute that happens, there are others in Russia that wish to seize power. The question is, will they be worse than Putin? But nothing is forever, and I don't believe that Putin is forever. He has an expiration date, and hopefully it's coming soon.
Chanuchan, I have a military question for you. The drone warfare, people are aware, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Russia, Operation Sindoor. But the sort of thing which the Ukrainians have done, it's a completely different ball game. They had parked these AI-powered, camera-enabled quadcopters deep inside. So imagine if there is a war which is going to take place in future, and suddenly there are 500 trucks parked in nondescript areas, and suddenly the quadcopters or the AI-enabled drones come out and they destroy your airfields, or they take out your military headquarters, or they just land at the Raisina, or for example, just to make that symbolic thing. I mean to say, it just completely changes the game.
I agree. I think every aspect of every war is studied very, very closely by us. And we will continue to study this. We will continue to see how we can best utilize it. And we will continue to make sure that we also adapt our defense systems to ensure that we do not get involved, or that we are able to find out these kind of vehicles if this was to happen to us, and we could also use this to target our enemies. So every aspect of war will be studied, Karthik, in very great detail. And I agree, it's a great innovation. War brings about innovation by nature, and every war is studied for its innovation so that we can use it for the next war.